the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I am your host, Dean Phillips. I'm proud to be here with you today. Of course, the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast is powered by the Precision Metal Forming Association, of course. I am the technical director here at the PMA over technical training. And with me today from the Precision Metal Forming Association, our own workforce director, Connie King. Welcome, Connie.
Hello, Dean. How are you?
Long time no see.
I know, right?
It is great to have you on here today.
Thanks for having
Oh,
me.
absolutely. Tell us right off the bat, what's your 5-year perspective of what you see coming in manufacturing?
Well, I'm hoping for some recovery. It's been a little bit of a slower growth over the last, few years. But I think with the projection, hopefully, of some lower costs in terms of bringing some inflation down and interest rates and things like that, maybe we'll start to see some pricing better for our manufacturers. Although there's always a political aspect, and we have Omar for that. He's great at from inside the Beltway. He's great at bringing that perspective into us pretty much every week here at PMA. For members to listen to the one voice, they're going to get some great perspective on that. But I think hopefully that with some reshoring picking up and bringing things back to the U.S. or closer to the U.S. in terms of Mexico will bring some new and added perspectives to increase the viability of a supply chain. And I think technology, obviously, it doesn't slow down, right? It just continually progresses and speeds up. And there are some great advances in the works in the future. And if we embrace it, and I mean by we as an industry and manufacturing, if we start to embrace that technology, which we've had that discussion, we are inherently and pitifully slow at doing. There are some advancements I think that could really, rocket us into some new eras of technology and advancing our industry. So hopefully the next 5 years are going to be an upward progress for
Project.
us, a little
Yeah,
faster upgrade than it used to be. So we'll
yeah.
see.
That's a great point. Now you mentioned nearshoring, and you'd mentioned the Mexico market. You just had an event go on down in Mexico with the district down there. Can you
Yes.
kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, our Mexico district just, I guess, um, built itself over the last year. And we have some members who are involved in the district. We have the chairs and so forth in place. And our technical trainer, or one of our technical trainers, Scott Rigg, went down there along with Randy Kish, the district manager. And they had an event on troubleshooting. It was about a 2-hour event where we had some of the members come in and they did some plant tours, and they talked a little bit about the troubleshooting aspects in the industry, stamping industry. It was a fabulous event. We had a lot of interest. We had people who were really keen on getting involved in hearing more about PMA and getting involved in not only in the training aspects and things that we offer, but all of the different events that are happening here within PMA. So I think it was a fantastic, well received, and I think getting into FabTech Mexico coming up this year is going to be a really good event for us to start breaking into that market.
Yeah. That historically, that's always been a challenge, I think, in Mexico, because there's been a challenge there because of two different types of companies. You have a company that are parented somewhere else, and they always held the purse strings and the direction, which meant that unfortunately the Mexico market struggled a lot with training. As bad as we struggle with it here in the US, Mexico has struggled with it for a long time. I think this event kind of illustrates that there is a desire within the Mexico market to bring about training, bring in new technologies. How do we capitalize on that to leverage the people that we have right now, the resources, for instance, on the job training and things like that? How do we go about that?
Uh, well, I think utilizing those people who are highly active right now within the industry to help us not only get the word out and our resources out, but the translation aspect of things. We have some great technical people. And when you get into translation, right, we know AI can do some things, and there's far more advanced technology in that aspect in multiple languages. However, when you start to get into technical aspects, it can be challenging to use AI type of services for that. So having resources on the ground there who are ingrained in our industry like we are, that's going to be a great way to move forward to say, okay, we can do implant, we can do videos, we can do um, online on demand. Obviously, we have some things already translated and so forth, but in that aspect, we can do a lot more on site than we used to. And the doors opening of the nearshoring with Mexico and companies bringing things in, hopefully they're going to have a little bit of better connection with those purse strings. And I think our members there will have more influence on them to say what they really need to make sure that the products and things made there and that the employees there are at the same quality. And to do that, they're going to need the same types of training and support that their US counterparts have. So I really think this event was a great way for us to break in that door, so to speak, of getting into more ingrained into the market with Mexico and making that collaboration a little bit tighter.
Yeah. And when we look at that, how do we get to a point of standardizing within the training in the US and in Mexico? Because most companies nowadays that are in the Mexico market have entities somewhere else. It may be in China, it may be in Mexico, Canada, the US, but to try and diversify themselves, most companies try to have a presence in different areas because of the changing climate politically, but also cost wise. If you do have tariffs or you have other things, that does impact your end price to your consumer or
Mm.
customer that you're dealing with. How do we standardize on things like training to where we can track it and show its effectiveness within the industry, whether it's just setting a bar for everybody in the industry or within your company from shift to shift? Because people that are on third shift have complained for years that they struggle with training because they're not given the same opportunities. How do
Right.
we combat some of that?
Well, I think PMA has a great flexible and collaborative outlook on that. I think we have different resources for the different types of training that people adapt to and connect with. So, for example, if you like the online on demand, we have that ability, and that's great for doing it on your own time. So, if you are third shift, you can log in at 2 in the morning and get the information that you need readily available to you. We also have the ability to do or record live videos and things as well. That could be in the same format as that, so it is an on-demand aspect. But we also, have trainers will travel. So our trainers are very good at coming on site to anywhere, to any location, and doing things in multiple shifts. I know you have as have done that on Saturdays, on the weekends, at the night shifts. We do adapt to their schedules. And I think that adds a bonus to people. It's a big benefit that we have for them that keeps things at a good cost as well, right? A lot of independent contractors may charge more for a lot more for those types of off shift trainings. But for PMA members, we are very good about keeping things in a cost effective format for them. And then we also have a connection with, we're working on growing a connection that is a software that can help enhance on-the-job training so that it works in a more natural flow state and alerts people of when it's good to do some shadowing and when it's good time to see in the production of things that something is happening that Sally or Joe need to be trained in. And we have the ability to work with those companies on implementing that process so that any time of the day someone sees something, the system will see something happening that says, hey, this is a good time for Sally and Joe to shadow and get this training that they need, whatever time of the day that is. So we have a lot of new things coming up with that. I think it's going to be an exciting outlook for 2025. And I think just PMA really has a broad and embracing look at how we help handle the multitude of challenges that come in with shifts and language and travel and company and countries and so forth. I think we're really good about working with people on that.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really good point there of our PMA's goal of being a solution provider. So not just providing a product of training, it's
Mhm.
providing a solution for your training needs. And part of that, to your point of uh, opportunities you have for training on specific things. I'll give you a perfect example. When it comes to maintenance, training people on maintenance is very difficult because problems only come up once in a while, those obscure things. How can I train somebody on this problem when a clutch breaks down on this specific machine if I don't let people know that that's happened and I don't have it scheduled, which also lends itself to building a model where it is more predictive maintenance and less downtime maintenance. Because if you're reacting, yeah, you're not going to have the opportunities to train. So having that element of scheduling becomes really dramatic for companies, especially when you're trying to transfer knowledge of somebody who's been on the job for 40 years and you're expecting somebody who just comes in the door has only been there a year to get to that same level. It's very difficult if you're not given the same opportunities to learn those same skills when they occur. So I think that's exciting to hear because to me, that's one of the areas I hear people complain about all the time is that how can we train somebody on a problem that may only happen once every month? Well, it takes some planning and
It does.
having tools.
And the pre-work, that we offer, so to speak, the pre-work we offer is great. It builds that knowledge base, but the actual hands-on part of it is really where a lot of the learning happens and the retention happens, right? The more you do it, the more it gets in and becomes more ingrained in your system on how it works. And it helps with the problem solving. That's one of the biggest things we face. I think generationally we're facing right now is the ability to problem solve. And unless you're doing it at the moment it happens, that doesn't always happen. So I think working with the system and getting that in place will help companies predict, so to speak, when something's coming up. And we know that someone needs to be trained on that particular thing. And when it happens, it's alerted to happen so that that's not missed opportunity.
Yeah. And let's shift gears. Well, it's kind of a shift. It's more of a lateral shift of what is going on in the industry today. 10 years or even 5 years ago, when you had a workforce problem, you needed a person. And I'm going to make a very old statement here of you used to put an ad in the newspaper
Yes, exactly.
and you'd have 20
Yep.
people that showed up. Today, you don't put an ad in the newspaper, you put it online and maybe two people show up, maybe, and to get them to stay is even less likely. So most companies that are a larger size are having to build their own. They're looking at programs like apprenticeship programs. how can PMA help with apprenticeships as we move forward in the workforce development solutions category of being able to help companies achieve their goals?
Yeah, I think apprenticeships are going to be or should be a very should start picking up. I think in the past, as you said, generations when we put ads in newspapers, I think of my father, right? When he went to work because he was supposed to, and he was going to work because he had to pay for his responsibilities and his family. So I went to work. And then, my generation came around and we were thinking, okay, we need to do that, but I really would like to do something that I like to do. And then our kids' generation is more, well, I really don't want to do any of that. I only want to do something I really want to do. And I'm going to move around until I find what I want to do. And then their kids are more in the I have a purpose. I want to find a purpose in my life, right? So we're looking at different reasons of why people are going to their job.
Mhm.
And apprenticeships, I think, are going to hopefully we need to bring them back in so that the industry is going to take if your people aren't standing at your door anymore when you put that newspaper ad in, there's not 50 people lined up to come in and fill out an application. How are you going to get that generation that really wants to know what's my purpose in life and what's your purpose as a company? How are you going to get them interested in coming to work for you when only two people are showing up at your door? And utilizing the stuff that you have and upskilling them and reskilling them is an option of bringing up somebody who has some potential into an apprenticeship so that they can see a career path and an escalation, not only in their personal and professional thing, but a salary increases as well, which apprenticeship shows it has to. And PMA is helping to not just get companies involved with doing of their own, but also creating some that if you don't have the ability to do the related training instruction, which is always hard to find in a good related training instruction, right? You can find them, but you don't know how good they are. And to help with the reporting, that's going to go to either the state or the federal government, depending on the type of apprenticeship. And we can help with that. And we're building programs to show companies, here's what we suggest you do for related training. Here's the on-the-job hours that we suggest you put in. We have that software system that can help say when that on-the-job is happening so that you can have better shadowing attempts. And altogether, that's going to be a really nice package. Most likely small, medium-sized companies are going to find a huge value in that because it could be time consuming and expensive to build apprenticeships. But hopefully we can offset a lot of that, take that weight off their shoulders of their staffing and of their pocketbook and help them get these apprentices in so that it builds a workforce that they're struggling to find.
Mhm.
And it's also going to build them skilled, right? Because they're going to work their way through. They're going to get advances as they go through. So there's a lot of areas that we can help with apprenticeships for companies. And then I think obviously that our generations need to enforce the importance of the trades so that students in today's K through 12s are starting to realize that that is a fabulous and viable career option. I think we're getting better at it, but we're not 100% there yet. Maybe not even 50% there yet, but we are making progress,
Right.
hopefully.
Yep.
We are making progress. But there are great ways we can help. And anybody who is interested in learning more about apprenticeships, I'd be happy to hear what their aspects are on it, what their pros and cons and fears and hopes are. And
Mhm.
as we build them, we can work on it as partnerships with them. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for them to get employees and for us to work closer with members on that.
Yeah. And there's a couple of points there that I wanted to highlight. One of the things there, speaking of tool and die, is it isn't just being able to find somebody that you can hire, it's finding somebody with that skill set. And that's really the problem when you talk about shortages. Tool and die is one of those areas that really struggles because
Very much
it
so.
takes a period of time to build that. And
It
how
does.
do you do that? What are some of the your thoughts on how do we get better at that?
Well, I think as a nation, we need to embrace, maybe some other outlooks on that. For example, German apprenticeship programs and the way that those are ingrained into um, just the mindset of people, right? Whether it's your schools and your guidance counselors. I know that post-secondary education has been such a push from all the way down from when I was a child. And it's certainly a fabulous way to go if you're, blueprinted for that, right? If you're
Yeah.
wired to be in that. And not everybody's wired to be in that. And that doesn't even mean even if you did post-secondary, you still couldn't be in trades. It's, do you like to work with your hands? Do you like to do those types of things? And I think that's one whole aspect. We have to work on making sure that finding what a strength and an interest is of a young person, um, and feeding that and growing it. That's one thing. The other side is if companies are struggling to find people who are interested, particularly, tool and die, we see it every day when we look at our email feeds and our um, conferences and things that we have with people. The tool and die is one of the biggest areas in our industry that's struggling. And that's then building it from within. If you already have some people on site who maybe are in another aspect of the company, it's assessing them and seeing what you can do to help them grow into that area. If one, they're already there, so they know a little bit about you and what you're trying to accomplish, and maybe just molding them into a new aspect, bringing them off of one type of area or field into the tool and die industry. Um, it's going to take, it takes a while. Like you said, it takes a long time to build that skill. And I think if we look at the trends of trades as well, um, focusing a little more on the manufacturing side of trades and starting to help students realize where things are made, how things are made. You know, you pick these up and it's like, okay, this is great, but it was made by someone. It was
Hmm.
manufactured by someone. And how they did it is they don't even realize that. And I think we really need to get better at that as a nation.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we will.
I I'm optimistic that we're trending in the right direction for that. Uh, I
I
think
am.
that we have. So, so we're just about out of time. I did want to again thank the Precision Metal Forming Association and thank you, Connie, for being here today. My last question I always ask people is, why are you involved with the Precision Metal Forming Association? What's your why of why the PMA is an important entity?
Ah, well, maybe that's the inner child in my brain that I found a purpose. I was looking for a purpose, really. I was in higher ed before I was here, and higher ed, of course, its main goal is students, those who are getting the credit. I was in the non-traditional professional development, workforce development side at a university. So I felt that my purpose was better served in an area where people really appreciated, valued, and wanted that growth and development aspect. And I landed at PMA and I found that the warmth of the members and staff who really want to grow as an industry and really want to learn and want to develop their people. And so it's great to come here every day, work with wonderful people like you and the others here in the building and all of our members. And it really, it makes me smile every day. It gives me that purpose and I enjoy it.
That's great. Tell people how they can get in touch with you if they've got questions on apprenticeships, training. How can they reach you?
Well, they can reach me directly via email at cking@pma.org. We also have a generic email address, which is workforce@pma.org. If you reach that, you're going to get one of us, including you, Dean, who can help them. So that's a great way to make sure that someone is going to grab that information in the right aspect at the right time. Or you can call our office, 216 901-8800. They really don't call that much. So I struggle to remember phone numbers. I can remember my phone number from when I was a child, but I can't remember that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Connie. We appreciate your time, and everybody, make it a great day.